Didn't. So, kal event bhi tha, I had scheduled to be in Bombay, and I would have done it from Bombay. But anyway, I haven't traveled now. I'll come. Bharat, how are you?
Hi, very well. Long time.
Whenever I see Bharat, I always ask him about his anti-aging formula. He never gives it.
He takes homeopathy.
Yeah, that's true. Dr. Patra's medicine. Dr. Patra's medicine. Yeah, I'm the brand ambassador for Dr. Patra's medicine.
Why not?
कलर भी बुक के कवर के साथ जा रहा है.
मैचिंग है उनका.
I like your background. So Nitish, all is set?
Yes, all is set. Now Roshni.
I'm sure she'll also join.
Yes, she's joining in.
And Nitish, your team is very, very Sujata, and everyone are very, very meticulous.
Okay.
They're very
yes. Proper reminders, proper link, everything, you know. The last few days, they were very good.
I think Professor Deshpande has also joined. Good morning, sir.
Hi. How are you?
Good morning,
yes,
Professor.
I'm fine.
Hi.
Professor Radeshdesh Deshpande, Vice Chancellor of ADYPU.
Hello.
Also one of the panelists. I think you know.
Good morning, sir.
Because everybody's name is there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have crossed 11.
Yeah, let's start if you have enough people.
Yeah, we can start now.
Do you know how many people are there in the audience? Any idea? Are there any?
It says 32, 34.
Oh, not bad. Good enough, because we'll capture all this and then send it out to about 10,000 people post the event.
By the way, I was last week in Bombay, Nitish, or Vikas.
Yeah.
I believe you had I think...
boiler.
Thursday you were the point boiler.
Yeah, where were you? You were there, you should have just popped in, no?
I got to know on Friday morning.
Oh, so sad.
Friday, Sandeep came to meet me for breakfast. That 10X guy.
Yeah.
So he told me I was there.
But you are there in our mailing list. आपको नहीं मिला?
मैं थोड़ा आजकल कम mail
देखते ही नहीं हो, देखते ही नहीं.
आजकल थोड़ा कम दिख रहा हूँ. ऐसा नहीं है. I see my mails.
Yes.
Last few days have been little.
You are one of the VIPs in my mailing list. There is a set.
No, it doesn't matter.
Who are, some people who must get out.
I would have come, but I got to know Friday morning. If I had known one day before, I would have come. I myself. Nitin, how are you doing? You're in Pune?
Fantastic in Pune, yes. Very much stationed in Pune now. Yeah.
Bharat must be in Bombay. Dr. Batra must be in Bombay.
Yes, very much.
Oh, I'm in Kolkata.
No, Dr. Patra is in Calcutta.
The trip has taken you to Calcutta. Some work has taken you.
Yeah.
Good. Is Ajinkya also joining?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Ronnie hasn't joined?
He will be coming in, I think. He'll join in now.
I saw Ronnie.
So Nitin, I think we should begin.
I think we should start if Dr. Patra
I think we will start.
Yes, please start.
Yeah. Roshni, I think you can kickstart the program. You could.
All right. Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, I take immense pleasure to welcome you all to the Leadership in Turbulent Times, held today as a webinar and book launch event, administered by eminent personalities in entrepreneurship. Additionally, we will also be presenting business leaders covered in the book. Our online event is primarily a knowledge-based webinar that will release the book You CEO 2. I would now like to introduce to you all the three most respectable authors of this significant book. Mr. Vikas Smith, Chairman and Managing Director of Nazara Technologies, is a philanthropist, author, communalist, entrepreneur, and TEDx. As the founder and president of India Business Group, he has an extensive network in the business and political spheres of Maharashtra, New Delhi, and the consulate circles. Also a passionate radio jockey, Mr. Mithasen has hosted multiple shows. Moving on to the next author, Dr. Nitin Parab, a business coach and strategist, have an experience spanning over 20 years which dealt with operations and concept marketing. He is ex-chairman MSME Council for the Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, part of the core team media outreach for IIT Startup Masterclass Pune Kanpur chapter, and Industry Academy expert advisor, Mumbai University Leadership Program. Dr. Parab is a deep thinker who has established the new line for business and success. The third author, Mr. Sanjay Kulkarni, has an extensive advertising and media experience spanning 3 decades. Mr. Kulkarni is a design and brand consultant who has worked for prominent brands. He has also served as the vice chairman and chairman of the Media Club of Pune for 3 terms. He currently is the group CEO for Inspire Group of Companies and serves many national and international brands for their brand identity, brand building, and brand management requirements. May I now request Mr. Vikas Smith, Chairman and Managing Director, Nazara Technologies, to take forward the proceedings.
Thank you. To limit, considering time limits, I will speak very short. Primarily, I want to thank all the CEOs who have agreed on my request to be part of this venture, this book. So that is the main reason we are here today. And another thing is that this is going to be a 5-book series. The next ones are going to be on topical subjects and CEOs of those type of like films, music. So there will be CEOs from those industries. We already started the work rolling in that. Thank you for joining us. We can move ahead. Roshni, go on.
Thank you, sir. May I now request all the CEOs present to officially release the You CEO Book 2 by untying the ribbons together.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you. That was the main event of the day.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this unveiling of the intriguing book. With great pleasure, I welcome Mr. Ronnie Skruwala, who has a tap into his creative genius and has set across a string of enterprises looking at the opportunities the world could offer. Apart from being ranked among the most influential personas in the world, his catch for converting an idea into a business model has set an example for all our young entrepreneurs. Mr. Skruwala believes in moving forward with the river of thought, thus carries a deep understanding and consideration of his investments. He holds an exemplary venture in the field of education. A unicorn startup, Upgrad, has gained popularity with a great impact in the digital spheres. Sir, I request you to kindly share some words with our audience.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here. I apologize. I was hanging on outside at 10:58 to be let in, and I think there was a problem for somebody letting me into the one, but I wasn't really logging on late, just for the record. Thanks. I think, Vijay always kind of inspires us with his multiple books, gets an incredibly diverse, talented, innovative, creative group of people together when he wants to represent. But I think the beneficiaries are the people who read the books and actually get inspired. And I think that's really what we're all here for. I think the circle of life for all of us, and especially in our various stages of life, is in some form or the other to share some of our many failures and some of our possible successes, and then see how that triggers a thought with everybody. I think there were 2 words you gave me to talk about today, and I just want to be brief on that. One was the word opportunity, and the second word was culture. But I've always found when we look at opportunity, we kind of mix it up sometimes in our own minds with being opportunistic. And I think that is something that I believe today when you segregate. The minute you think of opportunity, you think of the word pounce. You think of the word opportunistic. You think of the word, this is what I would need to do in my DNA, even if I was a leader, a manager, or even an entrepreneur or a founder. And I think differentiating between the two actually makes a big difference. When you size and seize an opportunity, or you look up an opportunity, the key aspect then is to do a little bit of key work before you do that. I think many of us fall into the trap that once we identify an opportunity, we believe by our own sense, create our own sense of FOMO, as we would call it, and feel we'll miss out on the same opportunity that we've created. And then we turn an opportunity into being opportunistic. And sometimes I think that's the sliver that either gives us success or gives us failure. And if you have some good fortune, that might go somewhere. So when I look at that and people say, for all of us here, do we decide by gut? My sense of gut is obviously, gut is not waking up in the morning necessarily and just having a good feeling about something and going for that. That's impulse. I think for all of us here, gut is about spending a fair amount of time and thoughtfulness and then letting your evolved thought take that decision. So I just wanted to put that one thought across when we're talking about opportunity versus being opportunistic, and why gut is a much more evolved thought than most people look at it as being a little bit more impetuous. When I look at culture, I can't think of a more important word when you're building an organization, scaling an organization, looking at any and every stage of an organization. At different stages of an organization or as a leadership or in your life, I think we look at different elements, but one common theme I think is necessarily culture. And what I do share with people, and it's my example that I kind of live with, when I want to plant one tree, I can look at things in a different way. But when I want to plant an orchard, I need a very different way in which I want to do it. There needs to be a certain sense of communication. So culture today, to a lot of people, means so many different things. One of the things I think it does not mean is having this reception glass plate where the 40 top managers have gone away to an offsite for 2 days, put out those 6 keywords, you paint it up on that, and you feel that's the culture for life. I think nothing today, I think we've all established, is for life. It's something that evolves, it's evolutionary. If we don't revisit it, we're definitely going to be challenged as far as that goes. So culture for me, I can't harp more important. It doesn't need to always only come from the top, but it needs a very, very important and priority aspect in any sense of leadership building or organization building. So thanks for giving me this opportunity. Vikas, all the best for having us all here, not only this, but participating in the book. And we hope you'll continue to inspire as you have done in the past. Thank you.
I'm obliged to all of you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. It was really inspiring.
Yeah. Go ahead.
For your kind words and your words of wisdom, and also for your precious time. Our second speaker, Dr. Mukesh Patra, is a self-made businessman who strongly believes in a perceived vision of grit and determination. With many years of experience and extensive knowledge, he has been able to establish his presence across geographies, creating a mark through his brand, Dr. Batra. Dr. Mukesh Patra has been awarded India's highest civilian award, the Padma Shri, for his exceptional work and dedication. So, kindly share some words with our audience.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Vikas, for this opportunity, and thank you for this book, which is so well written, and I'm sure that many, many people will find it useful. I mean, the idea, as Ronnie said, is really to inspire people and, to make sure that, Gen Next entrepreneurs don't make the same mistakes that we made. And so really what we are doing is just sharing a little bit of gyan and hope that people benefit from it. I think the success of the book would really go in, will be measured by how many lives you've changed, by how many entrepreneurs, have been put forward and how successful they've been. The 2 topics that I've been given to very briefly talk about was intuitive intelligence. And let me, say a few things about it first. So, first of all, intuitive intelligence is a misnomer. You can either be intelligent or you can be intuitive. You can't be both. But having said that, intuition is something which is developed. Malcolm Gladwell in his book says how you can train yourself to be intuitive. And intuitiveness is not the same as, getting some feeling from somewhere on the top or getting some guru to send you an email about what you should be doing in your company next, as you have seen happening somewhere. But intuition is really something which you build over the time. It's something that you hone. It's a skill that you hone. And intelligence is something that you anyway think. So I think you rationalize intuition. And the way to do it really is to put your ear to the ground. I mean, the way I've done it is, for example, is making sure that I listen to my patients, listen to my staff, put your ear to the ground in anything that you do, and learn from below upwards, and then put that into practice. So I think that's my first point about intuitive intelligence. The second point I would like to talk about is leadership from the heart, and whether B schools should really set up training programs for that. So yes, I actually believe that everything begins from the heart. Leadership from the heart is leadership which has great value. It is something which has great passion, and the passion that leader brings kind of then goes throughout the entire organization. I mean, we found, for example, that leadership, people are always watching you. You're your brand ambassador, and no matter what you're doing, you're being watched. Now, whether you're a local level leader or whether you're a national level leader or international leader in your company, you're still being watched. So setting an example and leading by example is a very important thing as far as leadership is concerned. And therefore, obviously, if you're doing that with your heart and your soul, you're going to carry that passion to the rest of the organization. Finally, I'd like to say that why B schools? I would say that entrepreneurship in India is endemic everywhere. And I think that, leading from the heart should be a subject which should be taught at the school level, because every Indian is an entrepreneur. I'm saying, we talk about jugaad, we talk about, how we can grow our enterprise, and, how we can, everybody doesn't want to be a salaried person. They want to be an entrepreneur. So I think, why don't we start at the school level? Why don't we start with history lessons, for example, from the leadership examples that we have? Maharani Jhansi, Shivaji Maharaj, and so on and so forth. Why can they not be made as part of education in history books, so that we truly have leadership that inspires? And the last part that I want to talk about really is that, like I said, everybody leads by example. And I think if B schools were to have a training program for leading with the heart, the first thing that they should do is they should make sure they have a very positive, measurable CSR activity in which everybody gets involved. It's when you reach out to people, it's when you deal with them. When you emotionally connect, do you actually connect with the heart? So thank you very much for this opportunity. It was wonderful. And I'm sorry I have to log out in a few minutes, but I'll listen as much as I can. Thank you once again.
Fantastic.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think I just want to say something. Maybe one of our next books should say leadership from the heart.
Okay.
Very good.
We'll work on this.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Let's
go on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Patra, for your kind words and your precious time. And we absolutely agree to whatever you have said. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us today. It is my absolute honor now to introduce you all to our eminent panelists who will provide their insights on the discussed topic of leadership in turbulent times. Our first panelist, Mr. Anurag Patra, a media tycoon, is responsible for publishing India's premium business magazines such as Business World. With a strong passion for events and knowledge symposiums, Mr. Patra shows a picture of current business practices and future aspects of industries. With his offbeat ideas, his publications are widely read, recognized, and appreciated. Our second panelist, Mr. Bharat Dabholkar, individual par excellence, has created a mark in advertising with his creative spark and marketing genius, developing brands that rule with their legacy in the market. His zeal for the industry made him plunge into drama and theatre, where he directed and conceptualized many plays. Mr. Dabholkar introduced the word English, and his flair for experimentation has created history. Our third panelist, Mr. Rihanna Khan, is a silent thought leader who has made a name for himself as a serial entrepreneur and investor. With investments in businesses like Ola Cab India and Dhruva Silicon Valley, his dynamic energy benefited in areas of investment. With his penchant to analyze the entrepreneur, he witnessed the organization grow from the ideation stage. He started his entrepreneurial journey at an early age and converted every opportunity into a mega business. Our fourth panelist, Mr. Venkatesh Ayer, the founder of Goli Vada Pav, an iconic Indian brand where he reconstructed simple Vada Pav into a versatile brand. A successful investment banker, Mr. Ayer created his brand that set an example in Harvard, ISB, and other renowned institutions. He is the writer of the bestseller, My Journey with Vada Pav. Our fifth panelist, Ms. Kalpana Saroj, has single-handedly turned the fortunes of Kamani Tube, a manufacturing ailing unit, converted into a vigorous business entity of the highest caliber. Her unique people judgment skills, as well as her team motivation skills, led her to practically rebuild an enterprise from scratch. Recipient of the Padma Shri, India's highest civilian award, her pragmatic views has set an example for everyone today. Our sixth panelist, Professor Radeshdesh Pandey, is a veteran personality, an energetic educator, a global innovation facilitator. He is the Vice Chancellor of Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University, Pune. Committed to innovation, design, and education, his performance-driven self is capable of expanding the limits of traditional thinking through the development and realization of ambitious projects. Member of the CII National Committee of Design, he has authored 3 India Design Reports in 2009, 2011, and 2014. In 2016, he authored a report on the future of design education in India, published by the British Council India. He has edited a compilation of 4 volumes of Indian innovation case studies for the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. I would like to thank all our panelists for contributing their valuable time to this event. I would now like to invite Dr. Nitin Parab to conduct the panel discussion.
Thank you, Roshni, for this wonderful introduction. And let me thank once again the eminent people present over here in the panel for their presence and making this a memorable event. Having said that, and with the pressing engagements of Mr. Ronnie Screwvala and Dr. Mukesh Patra, they have excused themselves from the panel. But now I'm Dr. Nitin Parab, engaging with you all to take this conversation forward. Having said that, let me begin with Mr. Anurag Batra. Can you hear me, sir?
Absolutely, Nitin.
Okay, so my first question to you, being the chairman and editor-in-chief with Business World, you have got the top view of all industries around India. Now, what advice would you give to the CEOs to take their journey forward in these turbulent times?
I think, I can tell you, if you look at the last 2 years or 22 months of COVID, I think while we saw loss of lives and livelihood, I think we can learn a lot of lessons and see that the lessons and the qualities that we are talking about are not theoretical. Indian leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs have practiced them. So I'll come to that, but I want to congratulate you, Vikas and Sanjay, for this book. And I want to say that, it is a very fast read. It's an easy read. It is very, very nuggety, if I can say. There are takeaways which are short. So congratulations to you. I've been on Vikas's radio show, Vikas. You're a man who's done many things in one life, taking a company IPO to building a great family, to building, other people's careers, to investing, and now writing a book and being a radio show host. Coming to a specific question on, I think Indian CEOs, what I see around me, and I'll base it on the last 22 months, a word that has been used a lot is resilience. I think truly Indian leaders have shown resilience. That's the first. Second is Indian leaders have shown compassion. And third is mindfulness. Dr. Mukesh Patra talked about leading from the heart. So I would say you can only lead from the heart if you can be mindful. And mindfulness is not about, it is about being in this moment fully. The power of now, as Eckhart Tolle said. Fourth, I would say, is the fact is taking risks. And the risk can be in terms of investment, it can be in terms of hiring people who may have a different point of view. The risk may be pursuing a project which seems tough. Fifth, I would say is, and according to me, it is very important, is self-care. At the end of the day, the entrepreneur CEOs have to take self-care. I think what has COVID taught me is self-care is equally important. If we cannot take self-care, we cannot take. And last but not the least, we are today discussing you CEO2. But I'll go back to a book that I possibly read 18, 20 years, I can't say more than 15 years back, called Tuesdays with Maury by Mitch Albom. And today, whatever is in that book, and the gist of that book is, work is great, go to work, but look after the loved ones in your life. The loved one can be colleague, it can be brother, sister, it can be mother, father, it can be wife, children. We all are so driven that we don't spend sometimes time with the people we love, and sometimes too late. So I think as human emotion is driven by two primary thoughts of vanity and guilt, if leaders can minimize both these, vanity and guilt, I think they can make better decisions. So that's what I see, that Indian leaders have said, never say never. They've questioned every driver of the business. They've stayed resilient and they've reinvented themselves. You also asked me a question about, what to learn. How do they make the right decisions? How do they learn? I think I would say the process of reverse mentoring. I think we have to meet younger people who may think very differently than us, who are building new kinds of companies, new kind of ideas, things that seem undoable when they start. So I would say if you have to do one thing, you have to deeply listen to young people and sometimes believe in them and their ideas. I'll halt there. And
fantastic. Fantastic, Mr. Batra. Now, I have a second question to you. A new civilization is taking birth right in front of us. When a civilization is taking birth, there are many opportunities coming our way. How do you identify these opportunities? Do you have a mantra or a tip that can be given or shared?
I would say 4 ways I do it. First is meet people. And while I talk about reverse mentoring, meeting people, I'm also an investor, so I do look at pitches. People come to me with ideas. So meeting people and listening to people, or I would say staying in the play. Once you're in play, which means, you're doing something, set aside some time for not doing what you normally do in your work. Second is, nothing works like reading, consuming content. I mean, I read TechCrunch and so on and so forth. Other sites, I have become what I have become because I read more than others, whether it was newspapers, magazines, now websites, blogs, podcasts. And Silicon Valley and a lot of parts, Israel, is ahead of us. So sometimes watching what happens there. So first is meeting people, listening to their ideas. In my case, my job is such that people come and tell me interesting things. So I get to learn a lot. I silently learn. Second is through consumption of content in every format. Third, very important is going to experts in every field. They're experts for a reason. There are a couple of friends of mine, for example, a classmate of mine runs a private equity fund, and I religiously have a lunch with him or a meal with him every quarter because he's pretty much at least a year ahead of what's happening in the world. And fourth is, it works for me, going back to the wisdom of Vedas. I would say Vedas are the most undiscovered wisdom, which is even relevant now. And a lot of discoveries that we are making now is rooted in the Vedas. So these are the 4 ways I would look at it. I would sum it up: meeting people, exploring ideas with them, investing. And investing may mean your time, money, so on and so forth. Second is consuming content. Third is going to the experts. And fourth is the ancient wisdom of Vedas, which is even relevant as we speak today.
Hats off to you, Mr. Batra, for giving that Indian touch, going back to the Vedas. Now we have our next panelist, Mr. Rihanna Khan, the silent leader who started his business just out of college. So now, if he started his business with a gut feel, so I would like to ask him a question. What advice would you give to the youngsters who are in college or maybe out of college to take on their new businesses?
Thanks, Nitin. And first of all, let me start by appreciating the book that you've put together and the series of books. I had co-authored a book myself in 2019, and I know the incredible amount of work that goes into it. This small book doesn't do justice to the amount of work that goes into it. So thank you very much, and excited to hear that you're continuing the series, which will be a wealth of information for people. Thanks for that question. I did start straight out of college. The year was 1992. And let me start by actually quoting something I saw on Twitter today. I saw Elon Musk talk about a meeting that he had with Charlie Munger, which is Warren Buffett's partner, in 2009. And Munger told him, "Oh, Tesla will never work." Right? And he went ahead anyway with it. So I think that is the story and the life of an entrepreneur, right? So when I also started in 1992, I didn't come from a business family, first generation entrepreneur. 90s wasn't the best time to start a business. There was no ecosystem supporting you. Everybody was like, don't do this, right? And my gut and my conviction made me go ahead with it. It seemed very foolish in the first few years till maybe 98 or 2000, because there were a lot of failures and a lot of missteps. But then I started learning and things became better, right? And I went on to create 3 companies. Not all of them were successful, but I built 3 companies. And then I set up a venture capital fund in 2013, and that has got some of those companies that you mentioned in there, Farm-Easy, Ola Cabs, Ruva, etc. So yeah, that's been my journey, and I think the advice I have, and this is the consistent advice we give all our founders, is that the most powerful thing you have is your conviction. Stay true to it. You will be surrounded by naysayers. You will be, because people don't see the opportunity, right? Only you can see the opportunity. So everybody is questioning it. So now that I'm on the other side and we invest in companies, the number one thing we look for is the conviction that the founder has and the passion that the founder has when we invest in them, right? So I think, my single learning comes down to conviction and going for it.
Fantastic, Rihan. In fact, my second question dovetails into your earlier answer. Mm-hmm. Now, if an investor, a founder like Ola Cabs comes to you, you see his zest and his passion for business. Right. Do you invest in such entrepreneurs, or you have a particular process of investing?
Yeah, so I'll tell you something interesting about Ola. So I actually met Ola before Uber was well known. I think even before Uber was funded. Right? People automatically assume that Ola was a copy of Uber. It was not. There were these founders which had this insight that in India, the taxi service is quite broken. And if you remember back then, there was Meru, right? Yes. But they said that, hey, instead of buying all these cabs, we should just aggregate cabs, because you remember a lot of the T vehicles, right? The tourist vehicles, the white ones. Yeah. Their thesis was that we can aggregate them. And I love the idea. I had understood that, ground transportation or ground mobility is a huge space. It needs solving, the Bombay cabs, every time chutta nahi hai and all kinds of yahan nahi jayenge, wahan nahi jayenge was, going on. And I thought this is a great service, and I decided to invest in it. And when I took it around to, other people to invest in it, they were like, yaar, ye kaun si company laaye ho? I thought, can wave my hand and get a cab. Who's going to download some app and make a call to get a cab. Right. So I actually ended up writing 70% of the round because nobody else wanted to invest. Probably a bad angel investing move. But, I had conviction. The founder had amazing conviction. There were 2 of them. They had great conviction. And that was the story of Ola. And then, for about a year, we built the business, and then we tried to raise money after that year, and we couldn't, right? Because nobody had conviction in it. But luckily for us, there was a VC, Tiger Global, that saw Uber in the US and wanted to discover the Indian Uber, and that's how they raised their next round of capital, right? So these are the kind of stories, that you see again and again in companies which are stellar. Typically, the founders are on a very new dimension. People don't believe in them. They have terrific conviction. And it really is that conviction and that drive and that passion that you want to invest in. I mean, think about it, right? Who is a founder? A founder is a person who probably gave up, and in most cases, it wasn't my case, but has given up a good job, right? In the case of Ola, the guy was working at Microsoft, and his partner also was working, I think, in a top company, which is a cushy salary, and has taken this bet on himself, right? And he's building the company. So, when you see things like that, you see the conviction and the passion, you are inspired by it, at least I am, and, one goes ahead and backs these people.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thanks a lot. In fact, movies should be made on entrepreneurs. We will certainly have you in mind.
Thank you. Thank you. And well done again. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Now, the next panelist would be Mr. Bharat Dabolkar, an iconic ad guru who has created ads that linger behind and send a sweet message. So, Bharat, are you ready for a question that talks about creativity and innovation? If these two things have to be built up, and how do you build this as a culture in organization? Because that is what the future organizations are going to be. They have to have creativity and innovation. So, what is your take on that?
Frankly, I think that creativity and innovation are more or less the same thing. You innovate by having creative thoughts. I think what happens with a lot of organizations or with human beings or whatever is that you get stuck in an area of comfort. You like what you're doing. It's not risky to do something. It's much easier to be, it's like they say, a ship is safest when it's moored in the docks. The moment it leaves from there and goes into the wild sea, it has problems. But I think innovation means that you have to go away from the docks and go somewhere else in an uncharted water. What happens normally is that the kind of technology that is happening now, more or less all the companies are similar to each other. What we call in advertising as a Me Too thing. Every product, every company offers the same things. They have similar properties, they have similar presentations. And unless somebody moves out from that, I use a word, I say unbelong, because most people try to belong in the way they do things, in the way they dress, in the way everything that they do. They try and belong. They feel it's safer to belong because then you are one of them. And I always say, if you belong, you'll stay where you are. The only way you can move forward positively is if you unbelong. Do things that have never been done before. And the biggest roadblock to doing something different or something innovative is expertise and experience. I think Rehan just said that. I think in his companies, the moment you say, I will do something different, there'll be 10 people who will come and say, it can't be done. We've tried this earlier, it won't work. Or this is too crazy. Don't even try this. It won't happen. And I always tell people that if you want to do something innovative, something creative, earlier I used to use the word ignorance. Do it out of ignorance. That sounded a bit negative. So now I say, do it out of innocence. I find when I go a lot of times to schools or colleges as a judge for different competitions. And I find that the younger kids are much more creative than the older ones. They come up with much better ideas. It's because they are not clouded with what they think should be done. They're free thinking. They do things out of innocence. And when you do things out of innocence, great things happen. The problem with people is that they want to belong and they want to think too much into doing things. They want to play it safe. And then you can't innovate if you do that. The ideal thing here is you don't have to be creative. One is being creative and one is recognizing creativity. I think a good leader does not have to be creative. If he's creative, damn good. But if he's not, he should have the ability to recognize creativity, to allow creativity. I always give the example of Dr. Kurian. When people talk about Amul being such a great brand, I always say Amul wasn't a great brand because people like us who worked on that, the creative guys. It was because this man came and said, I have a choice of 4,000 agencies that I can take from. I've appointed your agency. I understand nothing in advertising. That's a good leader who admits that I don't know this. So he says, I understand milk and milk products. I understand butter. I don't understand advertising. So don't show me what you do. I have complete faith in you. And I think a good leadership is that's the leadership that I can't do it myself. but I'm taking people who can do it and I'll give them a complete free hand. I will not use them as suppliers. I'll use them as associates, as partners. A good leader, if he does that, he does not have to be creative. See, creativity is not something that everybody has. But you can buy creativity, you can associate with creativity. And I have seen most big companies doing that as their first objective. That I'll take people who are creative, who are innovators, and give them a free hand. See, taking people who are creative is easy. Giving them a free hand is difficult. Because everyone wants to hold on to that power, that I am the final decider. Now, I come back to Dr. Kurian because he's one of the best CEOs that I have met. When he said, don't show me anything, that meant that whatever we were putting up as advertising campaigns for his products, he had not seen them till the end of the year. He just said, I have faith in you. He said, I will not change a layout or a line that you are writing for any product. If the products don't work, I will change the agency. But till then, I have complete faith in you. I think that is a good leader. And if a leader recognizes this, of taking on people, and it's about people, it's on people management, finally. I'll give you one more example that when I linked up, we were an agency which was running very successfully in India. And we said, let's link up with an international agency. We went to meet the chairman of the second largest agency network in the world, Publicis, in Paris. And we were making a presentation to him, a major presentation of advertising in India, our role in advertising, our agency's awards, all that. And he said, just stop all that. He asked me, do you understand finance? And I said, no. Then he said, what are you sitting here for? Come with me, I'll show you the agency. And you wouldn't believe this. We signed a collaboration with them, an international agency, in one day. We reached there in the morning. By that night, we had signed the thing. And later on, when I met him, I asked him, how did that happen? I mean, normally these kinds of things take a long time. And he said something very smart. He said, Bharat, we are French Jews. We understand our business. We know that you'll ask for 10, we'll offer you 5, and we'll settle for 7.5. What is important to me is that I like the people that I'm working with. So when I'm coming in for a meeting, I'm not looking at the financials. That can be worked out. But if I don't like the people I'm working with, then that association wouldn't last very long. And I think that is the kind of foresight a leader must have, is that you must gather the right kind of people around you, and you must give them a free hand, and don't get into nitty-gritties of what things are happening in every department. And the second thing I always feel that, at least in advertising, we did is make people believe that we did this together. Don't let them feel that here's this great guy who's writing something and our agency is going forward. Make them feel that we did this together, which may not be true. But the point is, if a person, a leader, can make everybody feel that this is our work, we did this, not because somebody says so, because they genuinely believe so, I think every effort that the company makes can be successful.
Fantastic lesson in leadership, Mr. Dabholkar. Now, coming to the next question on people, the trust factor, especially in pandemic times, how do you develop a trust factor amongst people so that they work with this free will?
I think this is, what I said earlier is more or less what you're asking me now, that when people feel that this is a person who's not taking all the credit for the progress that our company is making, but we are all doing it together. And he's not going to let us down. He's not going to take the credit. He's not going to benefit from the success of this enterprise. The trust comes not out of what you're saying. Trust comes from how you deal with them. And we had a different way. We were an advertising agency. We weren't a large conglomerate. So we had fun. So my thing was, if you can have fun together, people will trust you. If you laugh together, people trust you. So our agency was this madhouse. We had dogs and we had monkeys and we had parrots in the office, and people had a ball. And that mattered in our creativity. The trust came from the fact that we did not have an agency where people had to take my appointment if I was a managing director to come and see me. They saw that whatever was happening in the agency was transparent. If we were taking a decision to do something new, we would call for a meeting and everybody shared that thought.
Fantastic.
When we were going to link up with Publicis in France, it wasn't something that was done behind closed doors. We all sat together, everybody sat together, and we said, we are planning to do this. What do you think? And everybody had a share in this. There were some people who said, no, I don't think it's a good idea. We have Indian clients. Why don't we stick with them? Why should we go elsewhere? And these guys will bully us later. All kinds of things happened. But everybody had a share in that decision. And the trust comes out of that. Trust does not come out of dictating the thing and saying, I have decided to do this, and from tomorrow we are going to follow this. That does not build trust. Then that is dictatorship. People have to like you. I think people have to like a leader if they have to go together and make that organization successful.
Fantastic insights, Mr. Dabholkar. We are waiting for a school of creativity to be brought up by you. It's a hope. Okay, thanks a lot for being on the panel. Now let me go to the next speaker.
Let me interrupt. Allow me to interrupt for a minute.
Yeah.
I know Mr. Dabholkar close to 50 years. If I'm not mistaken, he'll collaborate that. What drew me to him in the beginning, I visited his office and there was an alligator walking around.
Not alligator, piranhas. Not alligator, but there were piranhas.
I was going to say this. And then there are piranhas. I mean, I told him, please keep them locked up somewhere. Human beings. But then we know each other for 50 years now.
Fantastic.
And hopefully some more years.
Yes.
That is the real real profits in our life, the relations that we build up.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Go on.
So the next speaker is my dear friend of 10 years, Mr. Venkatesh Ayer, the founder of Goli Vada Pav. Though being an investment banker, I would like to ask him a question. How do you come up with a commodity like Vada Pav and create a brand out of it? What are the lessons in branding, the ingredients that you put in that created the brand Goli Vada Pav?
Thank you, Nitin. Thank you, Vikas, for such a beautiful book. And thank you, Sanjay. I read the book and it's come out as a crisp wafers, like a lace wafers. And in brief, you are able to get some golden nuggets, People don't have that time, energy to go through volumes, and to get the message comes and stares at your face. And I really like what Mr. Bharat Dabholkar spoke now. So wonderful to be part of this book. To answer your question, Nitin, I think imagination is the most important tool as human being we can bring to this planet. We all have an analytical mind, but I think it's the imagination that changes the course or evolves this planet, or evolves businesses, evolves people. So I was born and brought up in Mumbai, and I was 15 years a corporate finance person. My job was to go to banks and raise money for Big Bazaar, Kishore Biyani, name a few in textile, in computer education, many companies. And job was to raise money, do IPOs and all. While doing it, I also had my dream. So what I brought to the table was, I thought that can we evolve some other businesses, to a large extent. So when I saw the Vada Pav ant cart, what most probably I had was a new imagination. I had 15 years. I understood supply chain through corporate finance activity. I understood branding. I understood fundraising. I understood supply chain. I understood franchising. So to the same ant cart, I brought in some amount of supply chain. I brought in some amount of franchising. I brought in some amount of branding, some amount of fundraising. And वो 150 स्क्वायर 50 स्क्वायर फीट का बम्बई के फुटपाथ में जो एंड कार्ड था, which was being done by actually a poor man, transformed into a 350 plus stores, a pan India brand, and became a Harvard case study, ISB case study, and fundraising happened. The first board meeting happened for a Vada Pav company, and we got Shailesh Haribhakti to be our auditors. We got Deloitte to do our due diligence. We recruited people from Unilever, ITC, and McDonald and Domino's, and suddenly the face of Vada Pav became big, and it became corporate. It got respect. Now, most probably, I think we bring what is called imagination. Now, one important thing that happened around this concept was I had done 15 years, and I had given money to say one Kishore Biyani, one Provogue, a lot of companies, pharmaceutical companies, textile companies, and I was always thinking, one company, big company, and raising 10,000 crores and becoming big. Other, I was thinking, can we have micro entrepreneurs? It's basically, can we create micro entrepreneurs? So to some extent, the story was very strong. The narrative was very strong. The vision was very strong. So how did I do the branding? I'll be very frankly telling you, we in 2008 and 9, we went through a very terrific time. To real estate in Mumbai was very costly, and I had converted the RA milk booths into Goli Vada Pav stores. by an arrangement with the Harid Mill booth owners. But it turned out to be a political situation. And it was an election year in Mumbai. And I was a Madrasi selling vada pav in Mumbai. So suddenly it became a very sensitive issue. And before I could realize, I lost all that 4.5 crores, and I raised this 4.5 crores from a person called Mr. Jerry Rao, Citibank MD, and not easy person to handle. Good for human being, but when the money is lost, people get angry. That 5 crores suddenly came down to zero, and it became a politically sensitive issue. And my investors, I was sitting in the lawyer's firm, and they said, "Abhi kuch nahi hoga," and Lehman Brothers had happened. So there was no money also. So एक तो आपका 350 दुकान बंद हो गया है, Lehman Brothers हो गया है, तो new future fundraising. And we didn't know what to do. And they all said, company band kar do, company बेच दो. And that's when I said, क्या है हमारे पास? So except for my imagination, except for a supply chain and a great story. And I always believe that storytelling and narrative is very, very important for building anything. Like for example, Mahabharat story, even today we watch it, we listen to it. It's a great story. It started when even television was not there. Ramayana, we still listen and hear about it because it's a great story and people have told it over years of time. So I said, Mahatma Gandhi told an imagination and a story that we can throw the British Empire. It was a stupid story, People can't think you can throw a British Empire out. But he was able to. He told the story conviction, with a lot of drama. Hitler also told a story, So I think the world changes with storytellers. You have an idea, but you should have. So I took my story, and Thai event happened in Mumbai. And luckily, I was sitting in the front row and I asked a question to Mr. Ratan Tata that you had to leave West Bengal because of political situation. I had to leave Mumbai because of the political situation. And my investor was also sitting there, Mr. Rao, and he said, close down the company. So Mr. Ratan Tata had tears and he said, I wanted to do something good for this country, but not. After that question and answer, it was broadcasted and there was an investor who was sitting behind me, among them, one of the investors. And he came and invested 21 crores in 2011. So I realized the power, and then a lot of business schools started calling me to give the talks. And I improvised on the talks, some 600, 700 powerful talks in various business schools. ISB did a case study, Harvard did a case study, IMD. All these case studies came together and the media started writing about it. Before long, I could realize that we were attracting franchises from across India, we were attracting investors, we were attracting employees, and Goli became big. So I think the foundation of this Goli Vada Pav brand building was through storytelling and great
Fantastic, Venkatesh. You really brought the point on. Storytelling makes the imagination. Now, the next question is skills as well as your technology. At what time does a CEO incorporate these two elements into his organization?
Oh, beautifully said, So I always call it innovation or survival, So you imagine the caveman just came out of his cave many years, 50,000 years back, and his wife, most probably his partner, and a small kid was there. As he came out of a cave, there was a volcanic lava flowing, and there was a tiger in front of him. So at that particular point of time, he didn't think innovation. He just took the stick out of the volcano and showed it to the tiger, and the tiger ran away. And we discovered fire. So fire came. I'm just giving an imaginary story. So a lot of times in businesses and life, it's survival or innovation. Innovation, we call it innovation sometimes, but also, if you see the Islamic world invaded the Western world, the Christian world, and the Ottoman Turks entered Turkey, and Constantinople became Istanbul. The Spanish churches got, the Moors entered, and we saw the Islamic people entering Europe. And Europe was really low with some, whatever said and then some 1,000 years of Christian churches, the Bible, a lot of brainwashing was done, and there was nothing happening in Europe. I am saying about 14th or 15th century. And when the people raided and people invaded them, the Christian kings and all, and the Christian traders and the Christian church jumped into the ocean to Portugal and Spain. They took risk. They said, we don't have any option, but we'll explore the world. And that changed the destiny of this planet, the colonial era and the industrial era. To a large extent, the Spanish kings and the Europeans jumped into the ocean and took the risk because they wanted to survive. They wanted to survive. And most important thing, they said that let's explore. They didn't know where the ocean will lead. They knew something about North Africa. They didn't have great ships. They didn't have compass. They didn't have technology. They just got into exploration. They took risk. It was an adventurous story which they got into. And through exploration, there was risk taking, there was adventure. But the most important thing the Western world gave Europe was questioning the status quo. Questioning the status quo. We come from a very old civilization, and whenever there is a old civilization, also a lot of times we say our Shastras has said that, our Bible has said that, our Quran has said that, and then we don't question the status quo. So I think for innovation or any new scientific technologies to happen, we have to question, मैं बैलगाड़ी में जाऊं या गाड़ी में जाऊंगा, ऑटोमोबाइल में जाऊंगा, मैं कैंडल लाइट में पढ़ूंगा या इलेक्ट्रिक बल्ब में पढ़ूंगा. So I think innovation happens when we start questioning a status quo. That comes from a culture of scientific thinking and the ability of the elders to allow the freedom to question the status quo. So,
may I say something for a minute?
Yes,
tell me.
Okay, I just want to say hats off to Mr. Venkatesh. You know, vada pav was this cheap Marathi manus food on the roadside. And I always kept on thinking to myself, I said, why is that such a dull, uniform thing? Why can't we do to vada pav what the Udupis have done to the masala dosas, and they have Szechuan dosa and all kinds of things, and Chinese dosas. And once Shiv Sena had a major event at Shivaji Park, and they called all the vada pav walas from across Mumbai, and they said, they called some of us and said, taste all the vada pavs and give us one thing that you like the best, and we'll call it Shiv Vada Pav and launch it all across Mumbai. That never happened. With the Maharashtrian innovativeness, that never happened. And finally, I think it took a Madrasi to start this so wonderfully and do so well. So hats off to you, Mr. Venkatesh.
fantastic.
Thank you, Bharat. Coming from you is beautiful because you have always been a role model. Throughout my earlier days of corporate finance, I've seen all your advertisements, and so it's wonderful to hear it from you. So you are an inspiration for all of us.
Thank you so much.
So fantastic, Venkatesh. Your insights will trigger off many entrepreneurial spirits in India, and I hope them all the best. And I thank you very much to be very much over here in our presence and giving your great insights on the journey ahead. Now I hope Kalpana Swaraj has joined us, or she's absent today. Roshni, can you throw some light?
Roshni's name is Roshni, so she's always throwing light.
Thank you, sir. I don't see her.
She's not there. Then I'll move on to our final panelist, Professor.
Nitin, she's wearing a Mr. India gadget.
Okay. I will not be able to recognize her then if she's wearing a jacket. Invisible jackets don't work on this show. Now I have to come to the final panelist, Professor Deshpande from Vice Chancellor at Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University. Professor, are you all, can you hear me clearly, loud and clear?
Yeah, I can hear you quite well.
So my most important question to you is there a path created in the university to create business leaders of tomorrow? Or any leader of tomorrow? Are you having some type of insights where you create a student and bring him on the path of leadership?
That's a great question, and that has been one of the important aspects of this particular university which we run, that is the Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University. As you know, we fondly call it the Innovation University, because we believe that most of the, or rather 90%, 95% of the education system is based around teaching the students on how to manage the value that has been created by somebody else. Rather, it is critical that we start talking to our students about how do they create new value, and then they bring that new value into the world. The pathway is through innovation. Whether they become entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs, either way, they need to bring in new value, whichever field of work or whichever domain of study that they are pursuing. So I do believe that educational institution, and especially in the present times, which we know as the VUCA world, and where things are become so uncertain that you never know where the next job is going to come from. And if earlier the transformations took over 2 decades or 3 decades time, now these transformations take over 5 years time period. So you never know where are you going to land up. And unless you have that leadership strain in you, unless you have that strain of creativity and innovation within you, the survival would be very, very difficult.
Okay. So then it's a part of your ongoing education process of creating leaders.
Yeah, it is indeed a part of the process, because if you teach them in a way that they are able to think, and rather they are able to ask questions, rather than feeding them pre-programmed material, and which unfortunately I see there's a lot of onslaught of online education, and they do pre-programmed teaching. That's like an absolute antithesis to the need of the times of education, which needs to be lively and which needs to help the students think, rather than giving them pre-programmed nuggets of things. Okay, take it and eat it, and then tomorrow morning you will have no stomach ache, you will not have any headache or anything like that. But it does not treat the problem. It just treats the symptoms. It does not solve the problem.
Fantastic. So the next question, which is very relevant to especially our industry, we are producing students which graduate and then move out to the industry. But there is a big gap. The gap is what is the industry expecting and what we are creating. There is a gap between the two. So there is a misfit. So how do you address this gap?
Okay, I don't believe there is a misfit. I think very clearly, and I would say this loud, the students who graduate from our universities and colleges are in the age group of 20, 22, 23. People hiring them are at least 33 plus. There's a 10-year gap, and these people who are hiring these young talent, they don't understand this talent. What they are expecting at the age of 33 plus is they are expecting the students how they were 10 years before. These students are much beyond them. They have reached much ahead of them. So to say that there has to be a fit, and there is, first of all, to say there has to be a fit itself is a wrong proposition, where education is not a factory where I am producing a fridge or a microwave is going to come with specifications which are written on the product brochure, and that's what it has to conform to. So first of all, that fit requirement or expectation is wrong. Second, to say that then there's to say that they are misfits, it's further wrong, because you are not in a position to judge the talent. Now you can come down and say, look, if you evaluate the talent on the strength of what that talent is and is able to bring to the table, I think then you will be able to see the value that is available in the talent. Otherwise, if you keep looking at the talent from the point of view of the lenses of fit, then it's never going to fit.
Okay, fantastic insights. It is going to be a debatable situation, maybe for some other day. But yes, what you say is very right. We have to come to their level and then absorb them and see what the best they can offer. So
I'll just tell you one funny metaphor on this. When I was growing up, I always wanted to marry a Madhuri Dixit or Aishwarya Rai without having to look my face in the mirror. When I look at my face in the mirror, then I know that irrespective of the fit that I expect, this is who I am. So I would marry somebody who would agree to me, no?
Correct. Yes. Fantastic. Fantastic. So I think so we have come to more or less the end of our lovely panel discussion, which was full of insights, practical insights that are relevant to today's CEOs and growing professionals. So having said that, I will now...
I would just like to inform that Ms. Kalpana Saroj is here with us now.
Oh, lovely, lovely. So I'm shedding off my invisible jacket. Madam, in fact, I was told that you are invisible and I cannot see you. So sorry for all that. I would like to pose certain questions to you. So you are amongst the last in our panel. So are you ready to listen to my question?
Yes. हिंदी में बताएंगे तो ज्यादा बेटर होगा मेरे लिए.
Yes, I will speak in Hindi.
जी.
एक ऐसी बात है कि तुम्हारी कहानी जब हमने सुनी और
जी।
किताब में डाली,
हाँ,
वो अद्भुत है, वो यूनिक है। ये इंस्पिरेशन आप कैसे लोगों को पहुंचा देंगे जो अभी अभी सीईओज बने हैं और अभी अभी ये वातावरण से गुजर रहे हैं, पैंडेमिक से गुजर रहे हैं? ऐसे वातावरण में आपका क्या सुझाव होगा इन लोगों के लिए?
जी, सबसे पहले तो मैं सभी को नमस्कार, और विकास जी को मैं धन्यवाद दूंगी कि उन्होंने इतनी खूबसूरत किताब निकाली है। और कई बार उन्होंने मुझे इनवाइट किया है कहीं प्रोग्रामों में, लेकिन किसी वजह से मैं नहीं आ सकी। लेकिन आज मैं विकास जी को भी धन्यवाद दूंगी। और जैसे कि आप मेरी स्टोरी के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं और मुझे जो बताना है आज के लिए, तो खैर ये जो आज का जो वातावरण है, जैसे कोविड ने भारत देश पे ही नहीं पूरी दुनिया में मतलब जिस तरह से एक कोहराम जैसे मचाया हुआ है, और उसमें से हमें उभरना है। तकलीफ तो हर किसी को हुई है, लेकिन उसमें से उभरना तो होगा ही ना। जैसे कहते हैं कि सूरज अगर डूब गया है, अंधेरा हो गया है, तो सिर्फ अंधेरा नहीं, दूसरा दिन का सूरज जब निकलेगा, नई रोशनी आएंगी, नई किरणें आएंगी, तो उसके साथ हमें चलना होगा। तो मैं ये कहूँगी कि जो भी हमारे नए सीईओ है, तो इस वातावरण में जो तकलीफ उनको हुई है, तो उनको अभी उभरना होगा। हमारे इंडिया में बहुत कुछ है करने के लिए, छोटे छोटे उद्योग है, मतलब उसमें भी हम लोग जा सकते हैं, ढूंढ सकते हैं कि हम क्या कर सकते हैं। मुझे तो वेंकटेश जी से मतलब बहुत कुछ उनसे सीखना चाहिए एक्चुअली। वड़ा पाव एक्चुअली हमारे मुंबई का बहुत मशहूर वड़ा पाव है, जो अभी यूरोप में भी बड़े शान से बिक रहा है। तो एक छोटे से वड़ा पाव को लेके उन्होंने इतना बड़ा बिजनेस खड़ा किया है। तो इनसे भी मतलब हमारे जो नए लोग हैं उनको सीखना चाहिए। तो करने के लिए बहुत कुछ है, इंडिया में भी बहुत कुछ है, और इतना कुछ है कि बाहर के देश के लोग भी हमारे यहाँ पे इन्वेस्ट करना चाहते हैं। तो फिर हमारे अपने देश के बच्चे लोग क्यों नहीं करना चाहते? करना चाहिए। हिम्मत की ज़रूरत है, विश्वास की ज़रूरत है। अगर वो सब ये करे तो यकीनन नए स्किल है जो सीखे, नए उद्योग है जो वो सीखे, और उसी में से कोई एक चुने और उसके ऊपर काम करे, तो यकीनन वो लोग अपनी मंजिल तक पहुंच सकते हैं, ऐसे मुझे लगता है। जैसे कि अभी हम लोगों ने भी बिजनेस में, तो हर किसी को अभी इस कोविड के इसमें तकलीफ हुई ही है, तो हम लोगों ने भी एक अपना नया कुछ करने की कोशिश की है। जैसे हमने एक एविएशन स्कूल भी हम लोगों ने मतलब अभी हम लोगों ने लाई है, जिसके अंदर हमारे पायलट तैयार होंगे, हमारे इंजीनियर तैयार होंगे, और एक एकेडमी स्कूल हम लोग जो एविएशन में तैयार कर रहे हैं, जो यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ में हमारा एफिलिएशंस भी होगा। और उसी के साथ साथ हमने नागपुर में मिहान में एक इंजन दुरुस्ती का काम MRO हम शुरू करने जा रहे हैं, जबकि यहाँ पर हमारे इंडिया में बहुत कम इंजन दुरुस्ती के काम होते हैं। एयर इंडिया के पास में है, लेकिन वो भी उतना नहीं कर सकते हैं। तो हमारे जो इंजन हैं वो बाहर के देश में जाते हैं दुरुस्ती के लिए। तो हमने ये देखा कि जब वो बाहर जा रहे हैं, तो क्यों ना हम अपने ही देश में उसको दुरुस्त करें, और डॉलर के रूप में हमारे देश को इकोनॉमी मिलेगी और बहुत सारे बेरोजगारों को रोजगार मिलेगा। ये दृष्टिकोण को रखते हुए हमें तो खैर बिजनेस मिलेगा, लेकिन हमारे बेरोजगार को रोजगार मिलेगा, हमारे देश की तरक्की का एक हम हिस्सा बनेंगे। इसीलिए हम लोगों ने एक एविएशन फील्ड में भी हम लोग आए हैं। तो इस तरह से कुछ भी मतलब सीखने की ज़रूरत है, करने की ज़रूरत है, हिम्मत की ज़रूरत है, विश्वास की ज़रूरत है। और आज सब कुछ इतना इजी है इन लोगों को करने के लिए, इतना मुश्किल नहीं है। जैसे कि हमारे ज़माने में इतना मुश्किल था कि हम कुछ कर ही नहीं सकते थे, कोई रास्ता दिखाई ही नहीं देता था। इन लोगों के तो लिए हर तरह से हर रास्ता खुला हुआ है। गवर्नमेंट के कितने सारे स्कीम है, उस स्कीम में भी वो लोग जा सकते हैं। तो इस तरह से वो लोग कुछ भी कर सकते हैं, और मुझे लगता है कि उन्होंने करना चाहिए।
फंटास्टिक। आपने जो सुझाव दिया है, बहुत लोगों को प्रोत्साहित किया है। और उसके साथ एक दूसरा प्रश्न उभरता है कि आज नारी शक्ति दिखाई दे रही है हर जगह, तो ये नारी शक्ति अभी बिजनेस में आएगी, और उनके लिए खास करके आपका क्या सुझाव हो सकता है?
जी, वैसे मुझे नारी शक्ति अवार्ड भी मिला हुआ है 19 में।
कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस।
जी, थैंक यू। तो आज के नारियों को मैं ये कहना चाहूंगी कि वाकई में आज के नारियों के लिए कितना आसान है ना, हर चीज आसान है। हमारे ज़माने में देखिए, हमारे ज़माने में ऐसा था कि उस वक्त की लेडीज को ज़्यादा पढ़ाया नहीं जाता था, घर से बाहर निकल नहीं सकते थे, घर से बाहर काम नहीं कर सकते थे। ऐसे सिचुएशन में एक ऐसी लड़की जिसके पास ना तो कोई एजुकेशन है, ना तो कोई बैकग्राउंड है बिजनेस का, कुछ भी तो नहीं है, कुछ भी नहीं है उसके पास, उसके बावजूद वो निकलती है, अपना रास्ता खोजती है और आज इस मुकाम पे पहुंचती है। तो कितने मुश्किलों का सामना करते हुए अगर एक कल्पना सरोज इस मुकाम पे पहुंचती है, तो आज के नारियों के पास में क्या नहीं है। एक अच्छा एजुकेशन है, घर से सपोर्ट है, समाज से सपोर्ट है, गवर्नमेंट से सपोर्ट है, हर चीज का सपोर्ट है। तो ऐसे में ये लोग बाहर निकल के बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं। जरूरत है हिम्मत, मेहनत और विश्वास की, अपने ऊपर विश्वास की। और कोई डर ऐसे दिल दिमाग में ना रखे कि अगर मैं कोई बिजनेस कर रही हूँ, अगर मैं कुछ लोन ले रही हूँ, लोन से लेकर मैं बिजनेस में खड़ी हो रही हूँ, कल को ये बिजनेस नहीं चला तो क्या होगा। तो ये जो डर है ना, यही इंसान को मतलब पीछे खींचता है। तो वो डर को निकाल दे और हिम्मत से आगे बढ़े। और अगर वो लोग हिम्मत से आगे बढ़ेंगे और इस तरह से काम करेंगे ना, तो मुझे नहीं लगता कि वो लोग अपनी मंजिल को नहीं पा सकते हैं। बिल्कुल पा सकते हैं, क्योंकि उनके पास करने के लिए बहुत कुछ है। तो मैं इन सारी आज की जो युवा पीढ़ी है, जो महिलाएं हैं, उनको मैं कहूँगी कि जब भी उन्हें कोई डर लगे ना, तो मुझे देख लिया करे कि एक ऐसी औरत जिसके पास इतना एजुकेशन भी नहीं है, जिसके पास कोई बैकग्राउंड बिजनेस का नहीं है, कुछ भी नहीं है, उसके बावजूद अगर ये यहाँ तक पहुँच सकती है, तो वो लोग भी क्यों नहीं पहुँच सकते, जबकि उनके पास सब कुछ है। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि उन्होंने करना चाहिए। हिम्मत और मेहनत की जरूरत है, कड़ी मेहनत करनी पड़ती है और
फैंटास्टिक,
अपने आप पे विश्वास रखना पड़ता है।
फैंटास्टिक। आपके ऊपर एक मूवी तो निकलना चाहिए कि लोगों को प्रोत्साहित करने के लिए, क्योंकि ये बहुत ही बड़ा एक मैसेज आपने दे दिया है कि कुछ नहीं होके भी आपने कुछ करके दिखाया। हिम्मत चाहिए, जोशीलापन चाहिए। इसी के साथ शुक्रिया, आप आ गए और ये हमारे छोटा सा बुक सेरेमनी का शोभा बढ़ाई आपने। तो इस पूरा वातावरण के लिए हम शुक्रगुजार हैं। और इसी के साथ हम अलविदा देंगे और रोशनी अपनी होस्टेस को बोलेंगे कि आगे का प्रोग्राम किया जाए।
थैंक यू।
Thank you, Nitin sir. So I would really like to thank Dr. Nitin Parab and all our panelists for this insightful panel discussion. We are certain this information will be helpful to our audience here today. And I would now request Mr. Sanjay Kulkarni to offer the vote of thanks.
Yes. Hello all. Let me begin with a small personal expression after hearing all this. I run a business group called Inspire. We all into, brand management services. So in that context, I always tell my people that we are in the business of inspiring people by our work. But let me confess today that while working on this book project, I really got inspired by every CEO's thoughts, principles, and stories narrated in the book. Indeed, today was no different. It was a great experience to listen to all these eminent CEOs on a single platform. I sincerely thank all the CEOs for sparing time from busy schedules and giving all of us a gist of a CEO's mind. I would like to tell everyone present here that this is just a synopsis of the UCO book. And you will find much more in the book. So I sincerely request all of you to get your copy today. And believe me, it will be a collector's book. I would also like to convey our gratitude to Professor Radeshdesh, Vice Chancellor of ADYPO, for accepting our request to host this event and guiding all of us today. It was indeed a grand gesture from you, sir. Also, I thank your entire team for conducting this event seamlessly. Also, I would like to mention and thank Dr. Parmar of Vyapar Jagat to endorse this event and getting associated with UCO platform by live streaming this event on Vyapar Jagat YouTube official channel for its members across India, more than 1 lakh members. I would also like to thank Mr. Soin Lakhani and his team of Embassy Books for publishing and marketing UCO2. I would also like to recognize the efforts taken by the volunteer staff members to plan this event. Without your support, this event would not have been possible. And last but not the least, thank you all for participating in this event and witnessing this excellent discussion from all the visionary CEOs. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. Roshni.
Thank you, sir. And from all of us, I would really like to thank all our audience members for joining us on this illuminating event. And thank you to all our speakers and panelists for enlightening us. The UCEO 2 is a clear path to success, well directed by experienced entrepreneurs who have crossed barriers to achieve goals. It is a guarantee that this book will be the key to budding entrepreneurs. Now, I would like to inform everybody that you can grab your copy of this book on Amazon. The link is available on the chat box and also to your emails. For the information, the event link of this webinar will be shared to you all on email, and also you can see it on Vyapar Jagat's YouTube channel. And on this note, I finally conclude this event as closed, and I wish each and everyone growth, wisdom, and success. Thank you once again to all of you for joining us today.
Thank you and congratulations, Vikas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vikasji. Thank you, Nitin.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us at this time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.